Hi and welcome to the Ruby and Pearls knitting channel. My name is Leah and today I'm coming to you with episode 18 of my standard format knitting podcast. Thank you so much if you are a returning viewer, and if you're new here, thank you so much for joining me for the first time. I film standard format podcasts over on this channel, but I also film the occasional pattern roundup or knit and chat. And I have to say, the last couple of weeks I've had very little motivation to film, so there's been a bit of a gap in my productivity over here on YouTube. And the minute I start talking, I've got Purl sitting next to me wanting some attention. So if you're new here, I have two dogs and they often make appearances, either audible ones or visual ones or both. So yeah, I haven't been filming for the last few weeks and I've been thinking about why I haven't had the urge to film a podcast. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that and I wanted to discuss those with you. So the first reason is that my two finished objects that I have for you today, one of them's not for me and the other one is a sweater that I'm not happy with. And I feel like whenever you put a lot of time and effort into a whole garment and then it doesn't turn out the way you had expected and you're not, immediately excited to wear it, that can kind of put you in a bit of a lower mood. And I want to be real over here and talk about these things. So that is problem, in inverted commas, number one. Problem number two is that if you've been here for a little while, you will know that I've put out a autumn knitting plans video maybe a month ago or so, a little over a month. I think it was just before September started, and we are now on the 10th of October today. And I've never done a plans video before because I am often led astray by design ideas of my own and test knits and new releases and just anything that comes along that inspires me, and I like being spontaneous when it comes to my knitting. But I felt really, really confident in my knitting plans. I had knitting plans from Stash and I was sharing all those in this video with you, and loads of you really enjoyed that video. And I feel like I'm failing a little bit because the majority of those things have not happened yet, and I'm kind of halfway through that 3-month period that I sort of set out as my autumn knitting plans period. And, there's no reason that I have to finish all these things, and I was a little bit overly ambitious with the amount of items that I wanted to knit. So I was fully prepared for the fact that I might maybe, finish 70% of them and the others wouldn't even get started. But what has actually happened is that I've cast on loads of other things and not the items in my plans. And there's one big elephant in the room that always happens in October that can often lead my plans astray, and that's Stephen West's Mystery Knit Along, which I got sucked into this year, and I'll talk more about that later in my whip section. So for all of those reasons, my autumn knitting plans have kind of gone out the window a little bit, and I shouldn't feel guilty about that because they're my plans and I can do what I like with my knitting. But I felt really good about my plans, and I think that's sort of, it's just thrown me off a little bit. So I just need to sort of rethink this. I will also be filming a roundup of my knitting plans at the beginning of December, and I'll let you know what was successful and what wasn't. And then I can learn from that and we can learn together. So I'm sure it'll make for decent content. And I've just realised that my jumper's got a crease right there. Apologies. But yeah, that is kind of what has been holding me off. And life's been really busy. So that is why I haven't filmed for a little while. But I really, really enjoy filming for you. I really enjoy the interaction I get. So leave me a comment down below if you like. If you want to have a chat, message me on Instagram. It's Leah Amber Knits. I am on Ravelry, but not very active. But you're welcome to message me there as well. So anyway, this is a very long, rambly intro to explain why it's been a few weeks. Which you probably haven't even noticed that it's been a few weeks, but for me it's felt like a long time, especially because for this tiny little break I was sort of filming several times a week and really enjoying it. So there we are. Let's talk about what I'm wearing briefly, and the main reason I'm wearing this is because I attended a very small yarn show on the weekend and I wanted to wear something fancy, and it's, it hasn't been put back into my wardrobe, so I thought I'd put this on. This is my Kaleidoscope sweater by Popo Vergara. Come a little bit closer so you can see. It is a sweater that I finished earlier this year, I believe. I knit mine in Adrifield Duo in the shade Pebble with these beautiful beads. And if you're not familiar with Popo Vergara's work, a lot, if not all, of her patterns contain some form of beading. It's very intricate, very beautiful, but this wasn't necessarily difficult to knit, it was just time consuming. I really love this sweater. There's one thing I don't love about it, and you'll be able to see it here. It kind of hits me right there on my throat, and I don't like that. And I always feel so heard when I watch Maya from Maya Tink's podcast, when she talks about her sensory issues of her throat, because I have exactly the same problem. Anything that sort of hits there, and I just don't want to wear it. And this is a gorgeous sweater, and this should be worn all the time, and I just don't wear it. And I've got so many sensory problems with different constructions, so that has led to a lot of different decision making in my knitting, but more on that later. Let's talk about my first finished object. This is actually technically the second finished object because I finished it second, but it doesn't really matter. This is my Laura scarf, which is a pattern by Anna Stephenson from Yarn Moomin and also House of Bleyer. So she's Yarn Moomin as sort of her daily regular Instagram profile. Can't find the word, but her patterns are published under House of Bleyer. And I test knit this scarf. It is a beautiful gingham colourwork scarf knit in Yarn Smith's Pebble Haze, which is a blown yarn. It is an Aran weight blend of cotton and acrylic. And I knit mine in lapis lazuli and marble. They've all got like stone related names. And I'm just going to pop it on and show you. There we are. So this scarf is meant to be a fair bit longer. I cut mine short by about maybe that much. The idea is that you actually finish the balls of yarn that you have. And there's a couple of reasons why I didn't finish mine. The first one was that this small circumference colour work was actually quite hard on my hands. And then I hurt my finger on a dog walk, and that made it even harder because I'm a two-colour colourwork knitter. So I was kind of ready to finish this off. And then I realised, because it's quite a sort of squishy and dense scarf, because it's basically, it's knit as a tube like this. So because it's a double layer and then it's doubled up again because of the colour work, it is quite dense. So you wouldn't really want to be wrapping it around your neck twice. And I've actually knit this for my dad. And I asked him the other day how long he would like these pieces to come down. You know, does he want to knot them? Does he want to sort of shove them? I don't know what he wants to do with them. And he said, well, he doesn't see much point in a scarf coming down further than mid-chest. So I basically stopped where I was. I cast off with a Kitchener stitch, grafting the hole shut. And yeah, I'm really pleased with how it worked out. It actually looks really cool. I'm kind of tempted to make myself one in a neutral colour, even though I think accessories with a pop of colour are really nice. Depending on what kind of outerwear you're wearing, I think a neutral coloured accessory for winter is much more versatile, at least for me. But I think this blue colour will look really good on my dad. So yeah, this is finished. I do need to block it still. I haven't blocked it, but from my experience, Pebble Haze doesn't move all that much during blocking. My hair's doing funny things now. I need to make a quick apology for my hair. I am currently growing my hair out, and this is another very silly reason why I've struggled to film, because I don't like how my hair looks at the moment. But I would like it to sort of grow to maybe a bob length again. And my hair grows very slowly, and at the moment it's at the awkward in between, not so flattering stage. So apologies for that, but it is what it is. So anyway, Laura scarf, it's coming, I believe, next week. The pattern is coming out, so keep your eyes peeled for this, because it is a very fun pattern and very well written, so highly recommend. My second finished object is it's the reason why I've not wanted to podcast. You have seen this as a whip, and it is my Sylvan sweater, which I knit in Yarn Smith's Pebble Haze in the shade Blue Beryl. Shade, not shade. What was that? In the shade Blue Beryl. And this was a little bit of a weird journey for me. So this is actually a pattern that was in my knitting plans, but vaguely, because I didn't have yarn for it. And I purchased the yarn and I really wanted to knit it because I had the desire to have a V-neck in my wardrobe. Now, I'm trying to think back because it's been a couple of weeks actually since I finished this and I've not really felt like filming and talking about it. So this was a roller coaster ride. I cast this on. Let me explain to you how this is constructed. You cast it on at the back here. You knit this cable outwards and then you pick up stitches and knit that outwards and you put stitches on hold. You then work upper back short row shaping. You work the upper back, you work armhole increases, varying slightly depending on your size. And then you pick up for the shoulders, you go straight into this cable and you actually work the V-neck increases out here and not where the V-neck is, which I thought was quite fun. It's quite different. Then you join the V-neck. I think in my size you join it before you join at the underarm. So you join the two front pieces together. You start this combined cable which twists in the opposite direction with part of the ribbing sort of just running down. You then join the body and the round, knit down. You pick up stitches for the sleeves and you knit down. And I enjoyed everything about this pattern. It was so addictive. It was so potato chippy, whatever people call this, until I got to the body. And I know that this is a point when I often lose knitting mojo on most of my garments. So this isn't unusual for me to sort of lose a little bit of interest on the body. But I remember knitting this body and thinking, that is very long. The length that she's telling me to knit is quite long. But I just sort of went with it. In the end, I think I cropped the body by about 3 centimetres in terms of like stockinette and cable. And then the ribbing, I think I shortened by about 1/3. So I think the whole body is about 5 centimetres shorter, which is ideal for me. I don't know if I've discussed this with you before on the podcast, but I am a slightly pear-shaped person. I have much wider hips than I have a bust circumference. And most patterns are graded either to upper bust or full bust. Basically, your bust and this area here is very indicative of what size you're going to knit. And unfortunately for me, that means that unless a pattern has heaps of positive ease, if the sweater is knit quite long, it can often be with very little ease on my hips. And I think that looks really unflattering. If I've got, say for example, I've got 6 inches of positive ease on my bust, quite a nice amount. It will be more positive ease on my waist because I've got a fairly small waist. And then if it's really long on my hips, it'll have practically no ease. And that will make me look really weird, especially around the waist area. So ways to combat this is go for extreme oversizedness, so you can't see that sort of decrease in ease. First increase, then decrease. Or I can crop it, or I can give it a split hem. Those are kind of the options that I have. And because I wear high-waisted jeans pretty much exclusively on days when I wear knitwear, I often go for a crop. And I was a little bit concerned about how oversized this was going to be. Plus I was kind of over it, body knitting wise. So I thought I would just crop this a little bit. And I was quite happy at this point. I put the collar on, the collar's beautiful. And I was particularly happy with how deep the V is on this collar. Now, I don't know if we've discussed this before, but I find that V-necks are a little bit tricky for someone with a fairly small chest like mine. I think they look extremely flattering on somebody with a large bust, but for me personally, they don't look very good unless they are a little bit more shallow. We then picked up for the sleeves, and this is where I started having a feeling that I wasn't going to like this sweater, because up until this point I loved the process. The pattern's very well written and it's a beautiful design. And I think I made the error of not looking at project pages on Ravelry and seeing how other people's versions turned out. So I picked up stitches and I started knitting, and I almost immediately noticed that there are no decreases in the sleeve. So the sleeve is a very bold, bulky sleeve. So that is kind of problem number one for me. I prefer a tapered sleeve, or like a sleeve like this where, you know, you sort of gather at the bottom. I think that's quite flattering. I don't like a tight sleeve. And the main reason I don't like a tight sleeve is because we move, right? We move our arms all the time, and you end up with this little elbowing out if you've got a really tight sleeve, and it looks quite, I don't know, cheap when you're wearing a jumper that has this weird bumpy elbowy out bit. So I prefer an oversized sleeve, but I've never knit anything with a straight sleeve. And I remember sending a picture of this cuff with my hand against it to Emily from Emily Knits. And I said, is it just me or is this really wide? And she said, yeah, that is really wide. But I thought, no, I don't want to rip this whole thing back because this cable is, it's not laborious, but you know, it's involved. And I thought, trust the process, keep going. We're just gonna knit the other sleeve. So I finished the cuff, I knit the sleeve exactly to pattern. The only modification I made here, which I also made at the bottom of the body actually, is that I used the Rook bind off, because I personally don't like a tubular bind off on 2x2 rib. I find that it slants and it's just not, it's not my favourite. So I knit the second sleeve, and then I tried it on and it felt a bit small in terms of length. So even though I knit the sleeve to measurement, it wasn't, I feel like a wide sleeve like this needs to be quite long. I know it's not practical anyway, a wide sleeve, because you can't really push it up, so you may as well have the full length. Which also means the body would have had to be longer to make it balanced, which it wasn't, which was my fault. So there's an issue with length of sleeves and body. Body length is my fault, sleeve length is not my fault because I knit it by pattern, as per pattern, sorry. But to my knowledge, I don't have particularly long arms because I've knit loads of patterns. I've never really had a sleeve length issue. If anything, my sleeves have often been slightly too long. So there's that. And then the biggest problem for me, and again, we're talking about sensory issues, which shouldn't really be a huge issue in this case. I've discussed this before when I was showing you the Fidalgo cardigan, that a lot of drop shoulder garments that have the trapezoidal shape on the back, which this kind of has, but kind of doesn't. As you can see, there's a bit of a slant. Most of those patterns work with increases and create a really stiff, really taut line on the upper back shoulder. And the problem with that is whenever you're moving your arms, you're pulling on this really taut line that doesn't have any give anyway, and you're pulling on it even more, and you can really feel it sort of trying to pull you up like this. And like I'm doing now with this, because the neckline is bothering me, that bothers me too, which is a bit of a problem because I've pretty much written off raglans, I've written off round yokes, as you can see. Drop shoulders were my thing until I started having this issue. So at the moment, saddle shoulders are my thing because that's the main thing that doesn't have this problem, or contiguous yokes. But the way to get around that, and I was really pleased with this pattern, is that basically because you've got this cable going across the top and then you're working short rows, there isn't a taut line. As you can see, there's plenty of stretch here, so that problem isn't happening. The problem that's happening is that this sleeve doesn't have any short rows. And I'll show you, this is the upper back. And as you can see, you've got this lovely slant in the shoulder, and then you've got the sleeve going straight out instead of down. So every time you're moving your arms, you're putting strain on there. And I've learnt my lesson here, and you're going to have to hold me accountable. Every time a pattern doesn't have short rows, even if the drop is really droppy, really far down, I need to put short rows in order to be comfortable in my sweater and to want to wear it. And that wouldn't have been difficult. All I would have had to do is start the short rows in a place where I wasn't disrupting the cable. So basically, I would have had to pick up stitches and then knit across this bit here, and equally also on the other side, and start the shaping down here so I wouldn't have disrupted the cable. And it would have been totally doable and not very difficult, and it would have really helped with the fit of this garment. but I didn't do it on the first sleeve, and I had my doubts whether I was going to like it. And then I just carried on and I finished the sweater. I was actually going to chuck it in a corner at one point because I was a bit frustrated because I was really excited about this garment. But I finished it because I have got an outlet for where I can give garments that I don't wear. They can go to my local yarn shop where I can sort of recuperate the cost of yarn, which is very, very lucky. So that is the story of my Sylvan sweater. I would probably knit it again because it is a fantastic pattern. There's nothing wrong with the pattern other than the fact that it hasn't got any short rows in the upper arms, which is maybe a problem that not everybody has. Maybe that's just a me problem. I just have sensory issues with that, and a lot of people don't, and they won't have a problem with this. But for me personally, it was just not right. So I think I would have put shaping into the upper arm, creating short rows, creating a further drop, and then put some decreases into the sleeve, and I think this whole thing would have fit me an awful lot better. And then I wouldn't have minded that it's now cropped, because I feel like these big sleeves that are really wide need length to make them sort of be a feature and not a I'm not sure what you've done there kind of look. So yeah, that is the roller coaster ride I've been on with my Sylvan sweater. And it's a shame because I really like this colour and I really wanted to wear this colour, but I can purchase more of this yarn. It's fine. Let's talk about my whips. My first whip, I'm going to show you extremely briefly, and I'm actually going to show you the finished side of the whip. I knit a vanilla sock. I knit a 72 stitch sock with heel flap and gusset. I finished the foot. It's bumpy and funky looking because it's not blocked. The second sock is on the foot. I find socks fairly boring, especially to look at, unless they are, you know, like a beautiful cabled or a lace sock. So I just thought I'd briefly show you, for evidence, I am still knitting socks. That's whip number one. Whip number two is my Rosie sweater, which you saw last time, and I think I had just started the colour work, so there has been a fair amount of progress on this pattern. The Rosie sweater is a pattern by Lynette, also known as Lena Holmer Samso, or rather the other way around. She's Lena Holmer Samso, known as Lynette, and this sweater went absolutely viral when she released it. And I remember when she first teased it, I knew exactly that I had to knit this, and I have cast it on, I have stalled on it, as I do with a lot of things, but I am definitely continuing to knit on this. And here she is. This is my Rosie sweater, and I have finished the first band of roses, and it looks so good. It's a bit creased and it's a bit bumpy because, you know, that's colour work before blocking. But yeah, look at that. Isn't that just amazing? I love this design. I think it's blowing out. So beautiful. So I'm knitting mine in Yarnsmith's Purple Haze in the DK version. And the colours are... I can never remember these colours. No, it's not coming to me. One of them's called Pink Something. That's the pink colour. And the other one, I genuinely can't remember, so I'll put them on screen for you. But this is a very involved colourwork pattern, as you can see. You also, in this particular band, worked raglan increases. So this is like a sort of set in sleeve, contiguous, plus raglan. It's kind of a fusion of different types of construction. But because this also happened, you know, it was quite involved in the first sort of bit of this colour work. So I've finished the first band. I'm now on plain stockinette, and after plain stockinette there will be a second band of colour work, and then I have to repeat the same thing on the sleeves, which, you know, it's half done on the sleeves already. But because this isn't a geometric regular kind of colour work, you have to work with ladderback jacquard or catching lots of floats, and I enjoy ladderback jacquard, but it just requires a bit more attention. And once I finished this band, I was just kind of overdoing colour work for a little bit. So I've put it on hold, but this is definitely getting picked up again. It's so beautiful. I think this will be a really impressive looking sweater. And my biggest sort of regret about not liking round yokes is that I don't have a lot of colour work in my wardrobe, because a lot of colourwork sweaters are worked as a round yoke, because you can really hide the increases. There are no sharp increase lines, and you don't have to work anything flat. So it really lends itself to colourwork. And I'm actually in the process of getting a video ready for you of beautiful colourwork sweaters that aren't round yokes, because I have all these sensory issues, and I'm sure I can't be the only one who has this sensory issue. And maybe you just want to see an alternative to a round yoke as well, even if you don't have these issues. So that is a video you can look forward to. But yeah, this is a Deco 8 pattern. I'm knitting mine on 4mm needles and then 4.5 for the colourwork. And the needle is curling up on that end, but you get the idea. It might be better to see on the back, actually. No, curling up as well. There we are. Really, really beautiful. Really excited about this. I just need to pick it back up again, but I've been led astray a little bit, and I'll show you what has been catching my eye lately. Next project is wow, the name is completely eluding me now. It is a pattern by the Knit Purl girl. It's the one with the sort of Henley kind of style buttons down the front. No, I cannot remember what it's called. I'm so sorry. I'll put a picture and the name on screen. It's just completely left my brain. And I am knitting mine in a stripy kind of way. Now, I am taking part in the Random Sweater Cal. This was a very spontaneous decision to take part in. And essentially the idea of this knit along is that you collect random balls of yarn that you have, sort of leftovers. You might have full skeins or two full skeins of any colour. And I collected all these colours. This is, I think, called Tuscany Tweed, is it? Tuscany Tweed by Stephenson, which is a wool, alpaca and viscose blend. And I have these two beautiful shades in my stash. I've got one ball left of this and 2.5 balls maybe of this. And then I have Lamana Como in this beautiful teal shade. I then have, this is an alpaca blend that I haven't got the label for anymore. But when I run out of that, I have got a ball of Masham Misty Double Knit from King Cole, which is quite similar in colour, not quite in texture, but it will be fine. And my last colour is this unlabelled yak yarn that I bought at Wonderwall maybe 3 years ago. And I think they make a really beautiful palette. And the idea of the Random Sweater Cal is that you either roll a dice or basically let a random number generator decide which colour you're using next and for how many rows. And the person behind this, which I also can't remember her name, I'll put her Instagram handle on the screen, but she puts daily videos up of what the random number generator decided for her sweater, which is really fun to watch. And she did anywhere between 1 and 10 rows. So I've decided to do the same. She's got more colours, I've just got the 5. So I go into my random number generator app. I've just downloaded a free app. I put in pick a number between 1 and 5, that's the colour. And then I put in pick a number between 1 and 10, and that's the amount of rows. And as you can see, I've pretty much just been doing cream, teal, brown. I'm finally now there on that beige. I've just started that. And the only reason you can see a little bit of light blue up here is because I decided I want the collar to be in light blue. And you cast on and you knit purl one full row and put markers in. And I knew that that would look really funny then if the next bit was randomly generated, because the next bit is worked in short rows. And if I had done all of this in cream, because cream was my first colour, on one side you would have a pretty wide bit of cream, and on the other side you would just have one row of cream. It would make sense if you have the pattern. So basically you cast on and then you purl back, and then you work from one end but then turn before you reach the other end. So what I actually also did was change colours in slightly different spots than I should have as per random number generator. So I worked this first little wedge in cream, and whenever I came to the end of a row and I had to change colour, I would make the double stitch in German short rows and I'd knit a couple of stitches and then change colour. And I had to do something else that was a bit fudgy when it came to the front here. I don't know if I can show you. I think I slipped a few stitches at the end of one row when you finish the colour work, just to make sure that it lines up, because sometimes with short rows, if you're doing it in stripes, it doesn't fully line up. It's really difficult to explain, but basically I had to do a bit of fudging to make sure that it looked nice and symmetrical, because it's quite a focal point here, isn't it? So that's what I did, and I just decided to do those 2 rows in light blue, so that's ready then for pick up for the collar, because on one side, as you can see, you can just see these 2 rows at the front, and on the other side you can actually see 3. And I think that would have been quite striking had it then not merged into the collar later on. So anyway, that is what I'm doing. I am on the raglan increases. I think it looks really, really cool. I'm really pleased with it. And it is so much fun. Just, you know, you just want to work the next, I mean, stripes are always addictive anyway, but you just want to work the next stripe and the next stripe and the next stripe. But then when you don't even know what the next stripe is going to be, you're like, oh, I really wish it was this colour, and then it isn't that colour. And then it's really entertaining. So if you have oddballs, I highly recommend that you do something like this, even if it's not as part of this cal. I think it's really, really fun. This, by the way, is a bag by lovely Danny from Aneta Suitcase. She doesn't make bags anymore at the moment, but I just wanted to mention it because she recently showed projects and she's got a similar bag, and I purchased this one off her, and she actually made me this Christmassy bag when I was part of the same knit group as her. So I've got 2 of her bags on the go at the moment, so I just wanted to mention that. And my last project, which is the one that's thrown everything off, is the Mystery Musikal. Now, I'm going to put a big spoiler alert. If you don't want to see Mystery Musikal Clue 1 and the beginnings of Clue 2, just finish the video here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. But if you're happy to watch, and Clue 2 has only just come out yesterday, so Clue 1 you will have probably come across by now. I've got a bit of a funny history, not funny history, but I've been on a bit of a journey when it comes to Stephen West patterns. Now, when I first started getting back into knitting, after many years of just picking up the needles here and there, I think it was 2019, early 2019. And at the end of 2019, if I'm not mistaken, in October was Starflake Mystery Knit Along. And I wasn't particularly aware of Knitstagram. I wasn't very much into looking at things on Ravelry yet. But I just happened to go to the local yarn shop, and the lady there was knitting the Starflake. I thought, wow, this is beautiful. And she said, oh, it's part of the Mystery Knit Along. But I believe by the time I saw it, it was maybe on Clue 3. Yeah, it was maybe on Clue 3. So I felt like, you know, it was a bit of a big hurdle to sort of join in at this stage. So I made a note that I was going to be taking part the next year. And the next year was Slipstravaganza. And I'll put a picture in of my Slipstravaganza. And I absolutely adored this one. I know this was 2020 because I dyed all this yarn myself using plant dyes. I had lots of time on my hands, it was lockdown, etc, etc, and this was such a fun project. So I was very excited to take part again the next year, which was shawlography, and I loved my shawlography as well. I'll put a picture in again. That was a very beautiful shawl too. The following year was Twists and Turns, and I remember that I did not enjoy this project. So the first clue was, while very striking and very cool looking, it was very, very laborious. I think a lot of people either bailed on that clue or had a really hard time getting through it, didn't finish it within the first week. And then I powered through, I got through it, but the problem was the overall shape of the shawl was just not really my cup of tea, and I don't actually own that shawl anymore. So after that, I decided the following year I was going to sort of not purchase the pattern until I've seen Clue 1 on the video. So if you're not familiar, sorry, I should have started this by saying Stephen West, a very prolific designer and artist in my opinion, because he just creates the most incredible work. Every October he releases a mystery shawl pattern. You just know that it's a shawl and you know how many skeins of how many colours of yarn you need. And once a week in October you get a section of the pattern which he calls a clue. You get a full video that comes with it, which is like a tutorial, and it's very good because you can learn something new. If you're a bit more of a beginner knitter, he will hold your hand all the way through, and it's a great community project as well. So it's really, really fun, and a lot of people get really hyped for it every year. So the next one was Geogradient, and there was all the controversy at the start of Geogradient, which I'm not going to go into, but essentially you were then kind of given alternatives for clue 1 or told to get creative. And I got creative, but I didn't like what I got creative with. And then I looked at clue 2, didn't like clue 2 and just scrapped it. So last year for Go Go Dynamo, I didn't even look at the pattern. I just knew I wasn't going to take part. And this year I happened to just go on Ravelry on the day that he released the clue. I actually thought it was going to be Friday, not Thursday. And his pattern was Hot Right Now Top 1. So I just clicked on it, realised the clue was out, went to the end of his video and thought, wow, this is amazing. I need to knit this. So, are you ready to see my clue 1 and a bit? Let me stretch it out. How incredibly beautiful is this? I just don't know how he does it. I don't know how he comes up with these things. So you create these 6 scallops in clue 1, and they are created by making this big eyelet at the bottom, and then 3 sets of welts separating some more eyelet rows, some brioche rows, and lots of interesting shaping. And I'm now on the squiggle lines, which basically are short row lines, so you can see how narrow they are here and how wide they are here. And there's going to be 9 sections of this fanning out, and it's just going to be absolutely gorgeous. I cannot wait. I'm so pleased with this. I'm so pleased I'm taking part. I'm really enjoying it. I've made a couple of mistakes, and because I'm really anal, I've ripped them back and fixed them. So there have been some swear words involved in this knitting, but overall it is just absolutely stunning. Look at that. So what yarn am I using? The purple, the darkest colour, is Huasco Sock in the shade Peacock, which is a bit confusing because they have a shade that looks much more like a peacock. So I don't know if that was mislabelled, but it's this beautiful variegated purpley colour. You can actually see it much better here. This mid purple and this pink are hand-dyed yarns dyed by me that I made since lockdown. I've been making the odd skein. I haven't dyed anything in a couple of years now, so these are definitely a couple of years old. And the cream colour is Katia Silky Lace, which is a merino silk blend. So that's merino silk, and these two are merino silk, and that one is just merino. I think 100% merino. And yeah, I just love this. This is so good. This is going to be so gorgeous. I have no idea which way he's going, what direction he's going in, but I'm here for the ride. I'm really enjoying it. And I have added some bits and pieces to this shawl, including this adorable little capybara, which I don't know if you can see it. Can you see that? It's just turning away. There we are. And my lovely new hedgehog stitch stoppers. These are all accessories from my lovely friend Rhiannon from the Cozy Crab that I met at the yarn show last weekend, and I purchased a couple of things from her, so I highly recommend that you check her out on Etsy and on Instagram. She's got some really cute accessories, really cute little bits and pieces for your knitting, and she does like seasonal boxes and lots of fun stuff. So yeah, check her out. And yeah, this is my mystery Musikal, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this. So those are my whips. I have got a few plans coming up. I have been eyeing up the newest pattern by, gosh, names are really difficult for me today, aren't they? Moonstruck Knits. I can't remember what her name is, but she goes by Moonstruck Knits, and the newest pattern by her is either called Neve or Nave. I think it's Nave. based off of how it's written, but I'm just winging it. I'm really intrigued by that pattern. I have purchased some yarn, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get gauge for it. I might have to do some gauge maths. So if that happens, I will talk you through that as well, because I think that's often quite helpful. And yeah, that is basically what is coming up. Finishing some of these things, finishing that sock, getting on with my shawl, hopefully putting a little bit into the Rosie sweater and enjoying that striped sweater, because that's all I want to knit on at the moment. So that is basically my update on my projects, and thank you so much for being here. I intend to film a knit and chat about different fibre types and my thoughts on them, and how I take care of my knits, and the sort of journey I've been on from wool, from pure wool more into man-made fibres, and at the moment slowly merging more into wool again. I'm just enjoying all the different fibres, and I can appreciate all the different fibres for what they are at the moment. So I really enjoy talking about these things. So if that is something you'd like to see, please let me know down below. I am also planning to film a pattern roundup on colourwork sweaters, like I mentioned. Colourworks sweaters that are not round yokes. I am nearly finished with my list. I'm getting that ready, and then I just need to find some time to film it and edit, because those are quite editing heavy kind of videos. So those are the two things that I'm planning to make in the near future, and then there'll be another podcast. And before you know it, then there'll be sort of winter knitting plans, maybe, because let's be honest, I'm failing at my autumn knitting plans, so I don't know if I'm going to do that again. But I am going to do a roundup of my autumn knitting plans and what worked and what didn't, and maybe I can learn from that, maybe you can learn from that, or just have fun watching me fail at my plans. And it's not about failing, is it? It's fine. I don't have to knit what I planned to knit. That's the beauty of having a hobby that's flexible. So this is not my job, this is what I do for fun, and it needs to be fun, and I need to remind myself of that. So yeah, that is everything I have for you today. I'm sorry it's been a bit of a longer, ramblier video, but it has been a little while. If you enjoyed this video, I'd highly appreciate a like and subscribe, and I'd love to see you again here next time. Thank you so much, and happy knitting. Bye bye.